Hello everybody, I am Dr. Alpana Joshi. I am a consultant sonologist practicing at Malad Shobha Diagnostic Center. I have been practicing since the last 26 years. My main area of interest is the obstetric and gynec ultrasound, and today we will be talking about the anomaly scan, which is done between 18 to 20 weeks, a simple approach to scan the fetus from head to toe, how I do it in my practice. So when we start scanning to do the anomaly scan, the first thing when you should remember is how many weeks is she, and that recording, that usually the machine tells you in here it is coming as this is a 21 week 6 days fetus. So when you start doing it, first it is always a good habit to see the placenta and the cervix, because that is still the most important part of the scanning examination. So what you're seeing is the placenta, and then you're seeing the lower end of the placenta where it is near the cervix, whether it is touching the cervix. So all those things need to be scanned properly. So this is the entire extent of the placenta, and you have to look at the cord insertion site over the placenta. You have to scan the placenta from anterior to posterior, from right to left, and see the entire extent. This is where the cervix is. You can see the internal os and the external os. Transabdominally, sometimes it may be difficult, but at least you can make out the distance from the cervix to the placenta is quite far, and it is not a low-lying placenta. So after we have scanned the placenta and the cervix, we go to see the spine. Spine should be seen right from the craniovertebral junction till the coccyx. In fact, you should see it as the upturned end of the coccyx here. So when you see the spine which was curving like this, and then it is upturned curvature which is seen like this, you know you have scanned the entire spine. So this is the most important part. Even if the spine is anterior, posterior, whichever it is, you should see this portion correctly. And of course you should see it in sagittal and then in the transverse section. So from caudal end to the most cranial end, you should start scanning. So this is the caudal end, and then you start coming up in transverse section and see the entire spine. Again you are coming towards the head end, and you have scanned the entire spine in the transverse section also. Whenever possible, you can do a coronal scan. It is not always a mandatory thing, but sagittal, transverse and coronal are the three planes for the spine. So we start scanning the head first. So the axial section, and the first thing that you see is this is the midline falx, and the falx gets interrupted here, and this is the CSP. These are the frontal horns here, and this are the choroid plexus. There is always a near gain artifact, and that's why you don't see the near ventricle very well. These are the lateral ventricles, and this is where you will see the sulcus here, and this is where you measure the lateral ventricles. So this is where you will measure the lateral ventricle, and this is how the measurement will be taken, like this, and this is 8.6 millimeters. Till 10 we say is as a cutoff, which is normal in this particular case. Then we start scanning, looking at the cerebellum. So what you can see here, this is the cerebellum, this is the vermis here. In the axial scan you can just see only this much portion of the vermis. This is the cerebellar diameter, transcerebellar diameter, and of course if you put it in the measurement, it will give you the number of weeks also. So this is how you will measure the transcerebellar diameter, and then there is a cisterna magna till the occipital bone, and you take the measurement of the NT also, nuchal fold thickness, in this from the outer portion of the occiput till the outer portion of the skin. So this is coming around 5 millimeters, 4.9 millimeters. So these findings are all normal. These small structures, what you can see here, the echogenicity is traversing, those are the normal structures, and in fact it tells you that this posterior fossa is normal, and this is what gets obliterated in Blake's pouch cyst. Whenever you are scanning the brain, you should try and scan it always in at least a coronal section, so that you know the CSP well, it is there. See, the presence of CSP and the morphology also can be assessed well, as you can see here. So sagittal section always may not be possible, but at least a coronal section you always get, and this is a coronal section where the CSP is seen very well even in that. Since we are using, this is the Mindray Resona system, if you take a 3D sweep, then they have a very nice feature of the calculations for the CNS measurements. In fact, you just take one sweep in the actual scan, and then the machine automatically calculates all the measurements. As you can see here, the auto measure, once you press, it is calculating everything. In fact, it is giving you the annotations also, where the CSP is, where the cisterna magna, cerebellum, in fact the lateral ventricle measurement is also done, the CSP scenes, and all these measurements come automatically in the system, and this is a quick scanning method for a basic neurosonogram, and you can see all the structures in just one sweep. Orbits are scanned in the coronal section. So as you can see here, these are both the orbits. So a quick way of knowing it, that whether they are normal or not without measuring it, is that the one more orbit will fit between the two orbits. So basically the two orbits and the interorbital distance. So the orbital diameter and the interorbital distance all will be same. And if you want to really scan for the orbital distance, and this is the measurement what you've taken for outer to outer orbital distance, and as you can see here, it corresponds to 23 weeks 6 days, and this is a normal position of the orbits. So these are the orbits, and then from the orbits, if you move down, you will start seeing the this is the triangle which is formed by the palate. This is where the palate will be seen, and these are the maxillary processes. This is where the nasal bone will be seen. This is the tip of the triangle is formed by the nasal bone, and these are the lips which are seen. Once we have finished scanning the lips and the nose, you should take a sagittal section of the face, which will show you the position of the nose. The nasal bone can be measured in this, like this. Nasal bone is 6 millimeters, which is normal, and a profile view should be seen. The mandible, and to rule out micrognathia and retrognathia and things like that, you will be able to see the profile section better. And as you can see here, the face profile is seen well, and you know that the mandible is placed in its normal position and there is no micrognathia or retrognathia involved. After we have scanned the head, we come down to the limbs, the upper limbs. You can see here the radius ulna and the fingers in the hand is seen, the humerus is seen, the scapula was seen, and sometimes the posterior limbs, the one which is down, may be little difficult to visualize, but as you can see here, you can still see the posterior limb, the humerus and radius ulna, and you should try and see the fingers and the palm. The front one will be seen very easily. As you can see here, the radius ulna and the humerus, and this is the posterior one, and the fingers, as you can see here, you can make out that these are the fingers which are seen. So after the neurosonogram, you should start scanning the upper limbs, and both the limbs should be scanned. So that should always be remembered. You should show in the image both the sides, both the limbs, both radius ulna, both humerus in one image, and then take the measurement. Then you come down to the section of the abdomen. The stomach should be seen, both the kidneys. Since here the spine is anterior, the kidneys are really seen well. The bladder is seen well. So in 2D image, what one tends to see is the stomach, the kidneys and the bladder. And then when you want to see the two umbilical arteries or the 3 vessel cord and the cord insertion over the abdomen, you should use the color Doppler. So this is the easy way of knowing the cord insertion at the abdominal wall and the 2 umbilical arteries which are seen next to the bladder. And you should always try and see in the abdomen if there are any abnormal vascular connections. You should always try and document that ductus venosus is present, the umbilical vein is seen, and this is where that aliasing is seen. You know that this is the ductus venosus. So you should not just stop at the level of the cord insertion or the 2 umbilical arteries, but you should extend your color Doppler box and try and see the umbilical vein going into the liver and joining, forming the ductus venosus and going into the heart. Then you come down to the lower limbs. Again, like upper limbs, both the femur should be scanned. Both the femur should be seen simultaneously. You should show right and left both femur, the tibia fibula, both the sides tibia fibula, and the foot. Again, as you can see here, the posterior one, especially if the limbs are folded, then it becomes little difficult to scan, but then you should try and make the efforts, make the patient turn, and then now as you can see here, the limb, the foot which was down also, still you can see it little better in this particular section. So that will be seen better. Once you adjust the patient position, you can tell the patient to shift or turn to one side, and then try and see both the limbs, both the feet and tibia, fibula, femur, everything together. So from head to toe, you should try and see all the structures, but at the same time, you should not forget to look at the fetal environment. We've seen the cervix and the placenta, but you should actively look for the movements of the baby. At 20 weeks, of course, the movements are significantly there and you don't have to really search for the movements, but you should make sure that all the body parts are moving well. There is enough liquor around the baby. And you should also look at the uterine arteries. We all know the importance of uterine artery screening in preeclampsia in the first trimester in the 11 to 14 week scan. But of course, there is still an importance even in a 20 week scan. The right and the left uterine arteries should be scanned. These are scanned in the iliac fossa, and in the probe is kept perpendicular longitudinally in the iliac fossa, and you take the PI of both the uterine arteries and then take the mean of that. So here, as you can see here, the PI is 1.0 and the next one, the PI was 0.6. As you can see here, it is 0.6. So you take the mean PI and then give it the value as mean uterine artery PI is so and so, and which is in the normal range. So if you are considering say 18 to 21 week scan, the upper limit of normal is usually at 1.4. So you can just remember it as a rough figure that it should always fall below that. Otherwise, if you are in doubt, you have these perinatology website, and where you can you have all these percentiles coming up for the uterine arteries PI. You get it on the Barcelona website. So when you come to scanning the heart, of course it is not a dedicated fetal echo, but while doing the anomaly scan, one should look at the size of the heart, the situs, the axis, and of course the 4-chamber view, the outflow tract views, and the 3-vessel trachea view. So when you are looking at the situs, I find it much more easier to take the abdomen section, look at the stomach. So this is the stomach, the aorta comes here. So if you join a circle, say from the aorta, the stomach and the umbilical vein, so you should see if this is in a clockwise fashion or in an anti-clockwise fashion. So this is in a clockwise fashion, it is moving, the circle is moving like this. So this fetus has to be in a cephalic position. So then with this, I will try and see, I will move my probe up and down and see if this fetus is in a cephalic position or not. So in this case, as you can see here, the fetus was in a cephalic position, and then this situs is correct. Of course, you should look at the stomach and the apex pointing in the same direction, but that will tell you that both are on the same side, but it doesn't tell you whether this is the right side of the fetus or the left side of the fetus. So this is the simple way which I find it useful. There is a rule of thumb. Some people try and imagine the position themselves into the maternal abdomen and try and see which is right and left. But I find this particular approach very easy and comfortable. Every time you may not get a very ideal position, but for assessment you should try and get one view which is say this transverse 4-chamber view, and one sweep and you know that this heart is normal. As you can see, a transverse 4-chamber view, then there is an LVOT and there is an RVOT. So this is the 4-chamber view, this is the LVOT, which is one first track which is coming out, and that is the RVOT, and that is crossing each other. So this is the LVOT and that is the RVOT, and here when you come up, you will start seeing a 3-vessel trachea view. So this will be right and this is the left. So you will see a 3-vessel trachea view when you move little cephalad towards the fetus. So this is a 3-vessel trachea view, and as you can see here, the spine has come now posterior, so which is a good position for us. And if you can see, it is forming a V to the left of trachea, and this is what we call as the antegrade flow in the great arteries, because this is the heart, which is the ventricles which are here, and the blood flow is moving in this direction, and so it is in blue, and both are showing a same antegrade flow. And this is the place where the thymus will be seen. This is the sternum. So you should see that 3-vessel, these two great arteries are not in close proximity to the sternum, because then it will tell you that this thymus is absent. So this is where there is a distance here, so you know eyeballically that the thymus will be present in this particular patient. We can use this option of one image in color and one in black and white, and then as you can see here, in fact this is the normal right subclavian artery, which is seen exiting like this from here, and this is going now on towards your probe, so it will be seen in red. This is a 3-vessel trachea view, and then in color you can see the aorta exiting, and then the pulmonary artery which is crossing in this direction. It is like this, and you can see the aorta which is exiting the heart, and it is going in this direction in the red. So this is the LVOT, and then this is the RVOT, and then they are crossing each other, so that means they are normally related. The power angio mode can be useful, especially to see the pulmonary veins. As you can see here, the pulmonary vein which is seen in red, this is showing a flow towards the heart. This is the left atrium, and you will be able to see at least the 2 inferior pulmonary veins, and you can see it here. This is the pulmonary vein which is joining here, and from the opposite end it will be away from the probe, and then that will be seen in a blue color. The Cine loop, you will be able to see that better. As you can see, at least the 2 pulmonary veins which are joining the left atrium. So these are the 2 pulmonary veins which are better appreciated on a power angio mode. The easier way to do a neurosonography is, since we have this as the Mindray Resona 7 system, what one can do is acquire one volume image, axial scan, and then once you have acquired this, it will show you all these 3 planes, and once you put the S plane CNS on, what it does is, see, if you look at it, it has given you automatically all 3 planes. It has given you a transventricular plane, it has given you a transthalamic plane, and it has given you a transcerebellar plane. And then the calculations also can be done automatically once you have this sagittal plane which gets depicted here. Look at the vermis which is seen so well here. The CCCSP complex is seen well here. So all these things with one swipe, and the machine has automatically done all these sections, and the measurements also become quite easy. And if you look at this, it has right from the lateral ventricle size, which is, it has taken it correctly, it has taken the cerebellar diameter, it has taken the cisterna magna, and everything is calculated by the machine automatically. And in fact, the annotations also can be done automatically. The machine will itself take all the annotations, and this will be the image. You can make the image into the single image if you want to store it as a separate image like this. This is a cerebellar plane, and then if you want to take a different image, this can be stored separately, and the measurements and everything can be done separately on this, and a sagittal image can be sent separately. So here we end our anomaly scan talk. Thank you very much.